The cold, biting air weighs heavy with tension in the dimly lit alleyway. Mark Reynolds, a 45-year-old police officer, is on the edge of death. Blood pours from his torn uniform, his face ashen, and his hand clenches tightly against a deep wound in his side. He stumbles forward, crashing against a dumpster, his bloody hand leaving a stark imprint on the cold metal. His gun slips from his trembling fingers, hitting the ground with a sharp, hollow clang. His breath comes in shallow, ragged gasps, each one more desperate than the last. "No, I can't go out like this," he mutters through clenched teeth. Footsteps. Fast. Heavy. They're closing in on him. Mark's heart pounds in his chest, the rhythm of impending doom. He's been trained for this, fight or die, but right now, he's far too weak to fight. A figure moves in the darkness, and through blurred vision, Mark can just make out the shape of Derek Carter, a man in his late 30s, wearing grease-stained overalls and scuffed work boots. He doesn't look like someone you'd expect to find in this kind of situation, but here he is, just an ordinary guy who's found himself in the wrong place at the wrong time. Mark's vision fades in and out, but his instincts shout at him. This man, he knows him. Flashback. Just last month, Mark had pulled Derek over for no good reason, searched his truck, humiliated him, treated him like a criminal, and showed no mercy. Now, that same man stands over him. The realization hits Mark like a ton of bricks. His teeth grit as he braces himself for whatever comes next. Mark weakly tries to sound tough, pushing through the pain. "Stay back." But Derek doesn't move away. Instead, he kneels down beside him, his gaze locked onto Mark's wound, his face showing frustration mixed with determination. "You talk way too damn much, man," Derek says, his voice firm but calm. "Let me stop the bleeding before you bleed out." Mark's pride pushes against his survival instinct, and he tries to push Derek's hands away, but it's no use. He's too weak. Why would you help me?" Mark croaks, his voice barely a whisper. Derek doesn't answer right away. Instead, he rips off his jacket and presses it hard against the wound, the fabric sticking to Mark's skin. Mark winces, groaning in pain, but Derek stays steady. Finally, he speaks. "Because I ain't like you." Silence. Mark stares up at him. For the first time in his life, he's not the one in control. His thoughts swirl in confusion and disbelief as Derek moves swiftly. He opens the passenger door of his battered old pickup truck and, with surprising strength, hauls Mark inside. The cop groans as his limp body is tossed onto the seat. Derek jumps into the driver's seat, slamming the door. The tires screech as the truck speeds off, tires burning rubber on the empty street. Mark clutches his side, his breathing shallow, each inhale a struggle. He barely manages to whisper, "The hospital's too far. I won't make it." Derek's jaw tightens, his voice a low growl. "Then you better not die before we get there." The truck rips through the streets, swerving around corners, its headlights cutting through the night. But then, suddenly, headlights appear behind them, fast, too fast. A black SUV is tailing them, gaining on them with terrifying speed. Mark's eyes widen, panic surging through him as he breathes. It's them. Derek glances at the mirror, his grip on the wheel tightening. "Who the hell is after you?" Before Mark can answer, the SUV opens fire. Bam! 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 Bullets tear through the back window, glass shattering everywhere, raining down inside the truck. Mark's breath catches as he forces himself upright, despite the searing pain. "Turn left. There's a shortcut," Mark gasps, urgency in his voice. Derek doesn't hesitate. He swings the wheel hard to the left, the truck skidding wildly, nearly flipping over. The SUV overshoots the turn, giving them just enough time to pull ahead. Mark slumps back into the seat, his breath ragged, the pain unbearable. But Derek doesn't slow down. He glances at Mark, his jaw still tight. "You better not die after all this trouble, you hear me?" The truck screeches to a halt in front of the emergency room doors. Derek jumps out, yanking open the door and half-dragging Mark toward the ER. Nurses and doctors rush out, their faces grim as they pull Mark onto a stretcher. In a moment of clarity, Mark grabs Derek's wrist, his voice weak but sincere. "I was wrong about you." Derek hesitates, looking down at him for a moment. Then, with a single nod, he acknowledges it. No words, just understanding. Mark is wheeled into the ER, and Derek watches for a moment before turning to disappear into the night. Later, Derek finds himself under a beat-up car, his hands covered in grease as he works on an old transmission. The door creaks open, heavy footsteps approaching. Derek wipes his hands on a rag and turns around, only to see Mark standing there. No sirens, no weapons, just Mark, a long beat of silence. Then, Mark extends his hand. Derek looks at it for a moment, a pause, and then he shakes it. The past isn't completely erased, but something has shifted. There's a subtle understanding between them now. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. What would you have done in Derek's shoes? Let us know in the comments below.